My name is Andrea McQueen, although most people call me Andy, and I'm one of the therapy managers here at Scope. I've had a number of challenges, really. General workforce challenges across all industries have been obvious during COVID. I don't know where all the people went. And then I guess within disability and within allied health, it's been a particular issue. Faced issues with people wanting to go out and work in private practices rather than for perhaps legacy organisations. I guess there's a couple of things there. COVID made us really think about what supervision is and what it means. And that started me on a journey of asking the clinicians who work with us what they want from supervision and having more open conversations about what supervision needs to look like for each individual. Because at the same time we were establishing a statewide team, so we really had to think about taking our supervision practices from local to more virtual processes. We also needed to reproduce the informal aspect of the social culture of the workplace. So one of the things that we did then was to establish some Teams chats for different teams. Sometimes they were formalised chats with managers present, and then there are some other informal ones that sprang up for groups of peers to offer peer support to one another. Face-to-face supervision is still a big part of what we do. So we went from having regular face-to-face meetings to less frequent but longer meetings in some instances. Another process which I think we've had on paper for a long time but probably weren't very strict about implementing was having written professional development plans for each individual. And that's been really important because from time to time opportunities come up, and when we're all face-to-face together in non-COVID times, it's easy to know who's around and who's looking for what opportunities, but when we're more scattered, it's harder to keep everybody in mind all the time. So once I know what someone expects, I may or may not be able to meet it, but at least we can have an overt conversation about what is available and how that might or might not meet their needs, whether it is the right workplace for them, what adjustments we can make, and so on. Another thing that I've found really difficult but also valuable is dialing back the content in some of our meetings and supervision sessions, and that's been really valuable. I tend to go pretty hard at the content, so I've really had to learn to scale it back. What I find is that if it's very structured, you hear the same voices all the time, but when you leave some space for questions and comments, it surprises me who speaks up in that space. But what became really obvious for us during the pandemic was just staff wellbeing had to be overtly addressed. And whilst that's not something that we might traditionally see as supervision as such, it is part of checking in, making sure that people are coping and thriving in their jobs. For some people, and I'd include myself in this, I think supervision is also about being seen. So there are some people that just want to be recognised as a human being, have their skills understood and validated, and not necessarily looking for a whole lot of content or input or new instruction. And to have somebody that understands their passions and is looking for the next step for them or looking for opportunities. That's really important too. And sometimes that is about giving people processes to follow, right? Because lots of times we feel safer if we've got a recipe to follow, and that's really valid. But yes, it's also about exploring with people. What part of it do you love? What part really annoys you? You know, how can we shape this role more towards where you want to go in your profession? Yeah, reflecting on what we've learnt through shifting supervision models, I think what's come out of it is some really strong relationships and a strong sense of team and a shared sense of purpose. I think I'd really like people to give themselves permission to deconstruct the concept of supervision and to do some careful thinking about what it is and what makes it valuable to each individual. But really helping people to own their own learning styles, understand how they like to have feedback, start to articulate their goals, then you can really build a strong partnership, I think.